of the St. Vincent De Paul Society at the conference at St. Anthony's in Renton. I've been a member for about 8 years, and that's where my experience of working with the homeless has come from. Everything I share today will be my own experience. It's not a representation of the society in particular or my conference. This is just my understanding and my experience. The St. Anthony's Conference began in 1954 and has been running ever since. I got involved through my father-in-law. He was very active in the St. Vincent de Paul Conference at St. Pat's in Tacoma. He was very enthusiastic about what he did and very dedicated. Even on his deathbed, when Tuesdays came around, his day for working with St. Vincent de Paul, he was doing his work with his partner over the phone if he didn't have the energy to go out and help. That was an inspiration to me. The St. Anthony's Conference now has about 100 volunteers. Our youngest volunteer is 5 years old. He works in the food bank. And our oldest volunteer is 92. She's a disabled woman who does all our mailing for us. We are very fortunate to have a parish who provides us with the space to do our work, the telephone, the fax machine, the copy machine, paper, telephone. Everything is sponsored by them. Even our food bank space is given to us through the parish. The parishioners of our parish also support the work that we do. They provide all the money and the food that comes to us for work with the poor. We have the school children involved as well. They do food drives for us throughout the school year and bring all the food over to the food bank so that we can process it and get it into food bags to get out to the poor. 99.5% of everything that's donated to us is given to the poor. We have a very low budget for administrative costs. Until 2 years ago, nothing came from anybody but our parish. But 2 years ago, we started getting some money from the Renton Community Foundation, who gave us some funds to help support our food bank. And then the Renton Human Services Department gave us a grant to do the work that we do with the poor. The Kiwanis Club has helped us as well. And we are also getting some funds from 2 government programs that will help us with rent and utilities for the poor in our area. Some of the businesses in the Renton area have also gotten involved in the last year with our food bank. We have gotten food drives through the Providence Health Services, and Banner Bank this year had a giving tree that they kept up after Christmas, and they sponsored our lunch sack program for the food bank for the whole month of April. All the food we collected went into the food sacks for the homeless and working poor. And now we've got Pack Lab, who just moved their headquarters down here, who are going to be doing a food drive for us as well. But what do we do at St. Vincent de Paul? The most important thing we do is listen to our clients. When people call agencies, they find that they get an automated message, which puts them into category 1, 2, 3, or 4, which is another automated message. Leave us your number and we'll call you back. Most of the time, they don't even get a call back. We do call back. We call back every time. And it's important because so many of these people, more than anything else, just want to be heard. And I know that because at least 3 times a week we get, you know, you didn't help me at all, but you listened to me. You're the only human being I've talked to all week, and that's so important. The other things we help with are rent, utilities, food, and clothing. We do this regardless of race, religion, nationality, color. We help people in the Renton and Skyway areas. If they come to us for help, we do what we can. No work is foreign to the society. The city of Renton called us not long ago with a homeless man who had been beat up and everything he owned was stolen from him, including his glasses. And he really wanted his glasses because he wanted to be able to see. They could get glasses, but they couldn't find somebody who would do the eye exam. Well, we were able to work with an agency who took our voucher and did the eye exam, no questions asked, and actually gave us a discount on the cost. So the gentleman got his glasses within 2 days. Our office is in the Parish Ministry Center at St. Anthony's Church. It's at 314 South 4th Street, right behind McClendon's and our Catholic school. Very easy to find and central to downtown. Well, I had a funny experience not long ago. One of our members, actually our vice president, had died, and for her funeral, she requested that people bring food rather than flowers. So after the funeral was over and before I went to the reception, I loaded all the food in my car and then pulled my car around to the parking lot. When I got out, a homeless couple came up to me and asked me if I had any food. I kind of chuckled and I thought, Pat probably sent them. And I said, of course I do, come with me. And I took them to the car and opened the door and said, you know, what can you use? Take what's helpful to you. And they did. And then they asked if I had a blanket. Well, I didn't really have a blanket per se, but I did have a packing blanket, the kind that has Teflon on one side and cotton on the other. And I got to thinking that actually that wouldn't be a bad thing for a homeless couple to have, because the Teflon on the ground would protect them from the damp, cold ground. So they took the blanket, and I hope they've enjoyed it. One of the new things we've been working with is the Renton Community Supper, which serves a hot meal on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's held at the Salvation Army office in downtown Renton. We've helped support that with financial aid to buy the supplies and people to help set up, clean up, and serve the meals. We also bring food up to the Friendly Kitchen, which provides a hot meal on Thursdays during the school year. Another thing we're able to help the homeless with is clothing. Now, you need to understand that we do everything by voucher. We never use cash. We don't have it on hand, and we don't give it out. But we can give vouchers for clothing, and I think this is important for the poor, and especially the homeless, and particularly in the winter. We like to give them the opportunity to get a new set of clothes about once a month so they'll have warm, dry clothes for the winter. We use either the Renton Clothing Bank or the Salvation Army store, which is in downtown Renton, or one of the St. Vincent De Paul stores, which are in Kent and Renton for this South King County area. And just as an aside, when I tell people I work for the St. Vincent de Paul Society, they always ask me, well, what do you do at the store? Well, I don't work at the store. I work with the homeless and the working poor. The stores are actually an enterprise that brings in money to help all of us work with the poor in the areas we live in. We had a homeless man that we were giving sack lunches to on a regular basis and clothing every month or so. And then we didn't see him for quite a while. Well, he came back not long ago to say hello to us. Well, we didn't recognize him. The voice was the same, but he looked very different. He told us he had gotten thrown in jail. Well, but while he was in jail, he got cleaned up, got a haircut, learned a skill, sobered up, and he was now out and he was working. But he wanted to come by and thank us for helping us when he was down and out, when nobody else would even talk to him. Of course, housing is the big issue with the homeless. That's why they're homeless. They don't have a place to live. Unfortunately, in South King County, there are no shelters, no permanent shelters. We have a few floating shelters, one in Kent called Home and one in Renton called Arise. They are programs sponsored by Catholic Community Services that have a moving shelter system set up for men only that goes from church to church in either Kent or Renton. St. Vincent de Paul Society in Renton supports the Arise program. I know in our parish we have the Arise men staying at our church gymnasium twice a year. As a conference, we support them with funds, with food, and with volunteers. Transitional housing is very limited in South King County. We refer people to Multi-Service Center in Kent or Way Back In, which is a small organization in South King County that covers Renton, Kent, and Tukwila, but they only have 11 homes. Low-income housing is not very big either down here, and the waiting list is, at last I checked, 2 to 3 years. Sometimes we're able to work with the system and have great successes. A couple of years ago, we had a family of 3 living in their car, a mom and dad and a toddler. And when they came to us, the toddler was very, very sick. First thing we needed to do was get him medical care, and it was a good thing we did because he was close to dying from malnutrition and high fevers. Once we got that taken care of, we worked with a social worker whom we know. We split the cost of a hotel for a week while he tried to find a shelter, a family shelter, which are really hard to find. He finally found one in Seattle after a week, and the family got into that housing, temporary housing. He then was able to get them into a home where they could live for up to 18 months. In the meantime, the father was able to find a job. Now the dad is working. They've been able to move into a home of their own. They're out of the transitional housing. The baby is doing well, and they're back up on their feet. Don't always get those dramatic results, unfortunately, but in this case, we did. I wish I could say we had a solution to the problem, but we don't. We do what we can locally by providing food, clothing, and referrals. But sometimes I feel we're putting Band-Aids on gaping wounds. Actually, I know we are. The more I hear about what's going on in King County, the better I feel about the possibility of getting on top of the problem of homelessness. I told you I belong to the St. Anthony's Conference of St. Vincent De Paul, and that is only one of the 54 conferences in King County. Once a quarter, the president from each conference get together and have a meeting to talk about what we're doing, what we're not doing, what our issues are. And recently we've spent more time with other agencies, bringing them in to talk to us about what they do and how we can work together more effectively. Last year, when the state government was going to stop the funding for GOW, which is the Government Assistance for the Unemployable, we as a society decided that that can't happen. That's the only money that these homeless people have. It's $300 a month, not enough to live on, but to them it's critical. So we went back to each of our conferences and had everyone we could write a letter to their particular representative or senator asking them not to cut that GOW endowment. And they didn't, because they heard enough from us. That was a great success.
I'm going to talk a little bit about excuse me, the Giving Tree program that we have in our office. Annually, we participate with the Salvation Army and provide a giving tree, which entails gift tags for people to take and bring back gift items for children, gifts, gift certificates, this sorts of things. This year, Banner Bank, my staff and I decided that we wanted to provide a giving tree year-round for our community. So what we have done is profile a different social service agency every month on our giving tree. They provide a list of needs for their clients, and so every month we collect items. For example, Renton Area Youth and Family Services, we provided art supplies and games and nutritional snacks for the children that may be entering that agency. We profiled the Pediatric Interim Care Center in Kent. They care for babies that are born to drug-addicted mothers. So we collected receiving blankets, clothing, diapers, and baby shampoo. So it's been very exciting for us to see the outpouring of care and support that we've gotten over the last few months. It shows us that everyone in our community has the desire to give on some level, and we have provided them not only the outlet in order to give, but also the delivery system. And it's just been an awesome experience for everyone. We decided to put up a bulletin board next to our giving tree so that we could display to our customers the effects of their giving. And we have posted the thank you letters that have come in from the different agencies that we have supported. So we have a letter from the Salvation Army that describes actually the poundage of food that we had provided during one of the drives. We have a letter from the Brown Bag Lunch Program that St. Vincent De Paul provides. Also a letter from Renton Area Youth and Family Services and from the Pediatric Interim Care Center. Other campaigns, let's see, in August, we profiled the Dog Days of August and we collected pet food and supplies for the Salvation Army food bank. They have a special pet area in the food bank for those people who need help feeding their pets. And we also have included a couple of photographs of the tree through the end of some of the drives so they can see how many items actually have been collected. Okay, the giving tree that is currently up, this is for the month of September. Kids are going back to school, and the Renton Clothes Bank has an annual drive that provides underwear, socks, t-shirts, and jeans for children who are going back to school. This is very important for those kids to be dressed appropriately and have nice things, and so we have profiled them this month. We are about halfway through the month at this point in time, and we have a good collection of items. And this is very, very helpful to the Renton Clothes Bank. They have had some funding issues this year, and so this particular drive is critical for their success. We've done, Salvation Army also collects personal hygiene items for those folks that need help with toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, shampoo, laundry detergent, these things that might not otherwise be available in their monthly budget. These things help immensely with keeping their household running smoothly. We've collected baby food items, specifically again for the Salvation Army Food Bank, formula, cereals, these types of things that are expensive, diapers, that maybe these families otherwise would not be purchasing. I think I do want to say one more thing, and I think that the response to this project has been eye-opening for me personally. It has shown me that there is a great desire in our community to support people who otherwise can't support themselves. The other thing that it has shown me is that there are so many agencies out there that support so many people. Until I started really looking into it, I didn't realize how many support services there really are and how many are located right in the heart of our community. The other thing is that how many of these agencies are in need of donations, so much more right now than ever before. I think especially with food items, there are just so many people in our community that are having trouble making ends meet. And personally, it makes me thankful every single day that I can support myself and my family and do the things that are necessary to be successful myself.
Welcome to our yard. We retired here 7 years ago from California. We're in Southwest Washington today, and we planted an orchard with a 7-foot fence around to keep out the deer, and we also planted a garden. The Victory Garden was something that my wife and I decided to do during our service to the President Obama's Service Day, and we decided to make it something that we can share with other people. we decided that we needed to grow some grapes. We went out and got a clone from France of a Pinot Noir grape that we planted, and we built a fence to keep the deer out to protect the grapes from other scavengers. My wife and I went listened to President Obama give a lecture about service to the country, so we decided that we would make a victory garden as a part of our service project for the community. We went out and went to lectures on how to plant the yard, and we decided that we would build a 4 by 8 by 12 section and plant our vegetables in this garden. We planted, we used all natural soils and basically dirt and wood chips to build our garden up. Are you thinking about it yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
The garden actually started in my greenhouse Easter weekend when my grandsons were here from Arizona. And of course the weather was quite cool, so we decided we would start the little seedlings where they would be warm and out of the wind and of course the rain. So when you look in the garden, you will see squash. That started Easter weekend, and some of the beans started Easter weekend. And as they grew, then I was able to bring them out. Many of the other plants that are a little difficult to see were actually bedded in the garden itself. I have carrots, I have green beans, I have green peppers, I have jalapeno peppers. That's my husband's favorite. Living out here in the woods, we do have the deer, and we have the bunnies, and we have other creatures that would enjoy my garden. So we've planted flowers, hopefully to keep the deer, and so far the only trouble we've had are the snails. So we have to do snail alert on a regular basis. Like I said, there are still things growing in the greenhouse, but basically it's all out here, and the reason for it is for us to be able to share with our neighbors, our community, and to be a part of helping others that need help. I decided to experiment this time with my tomato plants. I have grown tomatoes in the past, but that's the only other thing I have ever grown. So this time I went all organic, and I did 7 different tomato plants that will be bearing hopefully through November. In the front of the garden you'll see marigolds, and marigolds are supposed to help keep the deer away from your plants. So far we've done very well, and the only intruder we have are the snails. This is where my gardening life began, and the very first seeds that I ever planted were bachelor buttons. And as fate would have it, in the corner there by the red rocker are bachelor buttons. Now they're an annual flower, but for some reason this little seedling decided he would come back year after year after year. So this I think is his 4th year now. So I'm very, very happy to have him. This is my greenhouse, and it's actually 3 years old now, and this is where a lot of the vegetables and flowers had their start this year. I actually tried to buy a lot of flower seeds and do my own from scratch, and actually turned out to be quite successful. They're all out in the garden beds now. And as you can see, there's still herbs, and just a few things down at the end are my green beans. But basically everything is out in the yard and very quiet. But it's a great place for me to come. I can spend hours out here.